Illinois state budget that starts July 1st includes tax increases on cell phones, tobacco, sports betting, bed and breakfasts, and some corporate tax changes. $1 billion of tax increases and other collections that the state's going to rely on for the largest spending plan in state history. One thing that didn't pass that was very controversial was the transit consolidation measure that included $1.5 billion of tax increases for things like remote delivery. You order something from a retailer and it's sent to your house. Well, there would have been a $1.50 surcharge on that. Apparently, that's the vendor had to hide in the receipt. So welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. We were on the ground at the state capitol watching all of this unfold at the end of May, and ultimately it didn't get passed the Senate, but it didn't get brought up in the House before the midnight deadline of May 31st, where the vote threshold changes from a simple majority to a super majority. So it would have taken a super majority to approve the transit consolidation and funding bill out of the House, but it was after midnight by the time they got it, and didn't look like they had that supermajority vote in the House to do this because there's a lot of concern, right? The transit issue facing some significant hurdles. Earlier this month, you had State Senator Ram Vilivalam and State Senator Sarah Feigenholtz talk about the funding and how they have this fiscal cliff ahead of them, a $770 million fiscal cliff for the transit agencies in the Chicago area. Why? Well, the senators explain why.
The federal government was very helpful in during the pandemic. They provided a significant amount of funding to essentially bolster our public transit system.
Right.
From that time to essentially the end of this year. And it was very helpful. I mean, it's about a 20% on the whole budget that they were able to provide. That's what's running out. That funding is what's running out.
So the COVID dollars are running out. So essentially, it's an admission that the transit agencies were using temporary COVID dollars for regular operational costs. A lot of people, whenever the flood of COVID dollars were approved by the Trump administration and by the Biden administration, they said that the dollars going to public sector institutions, governments, schools, municipalities, state governments, transit agencies, all of the flood of COVID dollars that went out. People said you should use those only for one-time expenses, like paying off some debt. Or doing like, a big infrastructure project that's just a one-time cost. Not this continuation of funding or to make up for funding in a longer-term trajectory. So it looks like the transit agencies did use those COVID funds for regular operational costs, and that money's drying up, leading to this fiscal cliff. More on those funds and some of what they're looking for. Vilivalam and Feigenholtz laying that out.
This transformational investment of $1.5 billion, what does that mean? That means more frequency. That means bus rapid transit. That means creating new service. And for example, the suburbs. Right now, CTA serves 35 suburbs. They have the charge to serve all of the suburban Cook County, right? They just haven't gotten there yet. And so this type of transformational investment can lead to new opportunities.
And what are they talking about investments? It would be tax increase, because again, they're looking at increasing a tax on retail delivery to $1.50 per exchange. Doesn't matter if you're getting a $3,000 TV or a $10 pizza. Opponents say it's a regressive tax. There was also a proposed tax in the bill that passed the Senate that would have levied a tax on EV charging providers and I think some other kind of surcharge that was tied with environmental concerns or something to that effect. What about increased fares? Is that an option here? Vilivalam laying that out in his conversation, trying to support this transit consolidation tax increase bill.
I think that it's also important to acknowledge that while we're looking at adjusting fares, we invest in eliminating transit barriers. So there's in the legislation we reference a income capping fare program, right? And so, if you're on SNAP, or have other financial needs, having a lower fare. We've also put in the legislation through your advocacy and others, limiting transit barriers for survivors of domestic violence, for veterans.
And a variety of other classes of individuals would have limited fare, so it doesn't look like they're having a conversation about increasing fares to pay for that gap. So what happens if no transit consolidation and tax increase bill happens? Billy Valum signaling a warning sign.
If we don't act and make sure this gets across the finish line, as the service boards and RTA have said, there will be a 40% cut to service. There will be more than 3,000 people that will start to get layoff notices, which is just horrific.
So any tax increase, what are they looking at? Obviously, the measure that they passed with the retail delivery fee and the EV charging station stuff, and $1.5 billion in tax increases for mass transit, and that money would be coming from the entire states to go to mass transit districts, so people who don't even ride it would probably have to pay this fee to fund mass transit. Seems to be a big sticking point. But what about other taxes?
I'm open to other funding plans, but it has to be at $1.5 billion. If there isn't one, then we'd like our legislation to move forward and really avoid this fiscal cliff.
So what's going to happen here? When the governor signed the budget Monday, the lack of a transit consolidation and tax increase bill was asked about, and you had House Speaker Chris Welch and the Governor J.B. Pritzker respond to the lack of movement in the transit bill, but signaling that, hey, they've got time to get this figured out.
We don't want to continue to talk about this in 5 years and 10 years and 15 years because the system continues to be a failing system. We want to get it right. We want to continue to address what we're hearing from commuters. We want to address ridership concerns. We want to address safety. We want to address management issues. We want to get this right. And so it's important to go slow and get it right rather than fast and get it wrong. Funding doesn't...
Transit or just enough are you going to come through with the money, because that's going to keep it running or derail it.
Funding doesn't run out to December 31st. We're back in session in October for veto session. We have time. The folks that are in charge of those agencies know that the funding is there to December 31st. They're in charge of being responsible and efficient with the resources they have. We're going to continue to do our part. We have some very hardworking people that's working around this thing, and I believe we'll get it done.
And then the governor is asked about this as well when it comes to the budgeting.
I'm just saying we're committed to addressing the transit issue, and obviously with that, at some point, we're going to have to address the funding issue.
And the governor gets up there as well.
It's not a budget issue. This, I know people like to think of it because there's money involved and it's going to get spent, but actually it's not a state budget issue, the transit issue. It's really a separate matter entirely, even though there will be. I'd also like just to point out that there are a lot of contributors to the solution here. I know there are people who say, well, this is the cliff and here's the amount of money and what is the state going to do to fill that gap? And the answer is not that the state is solely responsible for filling that gap. There are lots of sources, right? The counties where there are residents who are affected, the city of Chicago, Cook County, too, and the riders themselves, as well as the efficiencies that need to be brought to the system. And you have to put all of that together and determine how much money the state should be putting forward. And I think that, I just want to point out that everybody's focusing only on the state when actually there's a whole lot to put together here. So, yeah.
There you go. We're going to see this come back up sooner than later when it comes to how much they're going to increase taxes to and where that tax money is going to come from to fund the mass transit cliff that's going to come at the end of this calendar year as they work to try to consolidate things. How this is going to play out is going going to be fascinating. And of course, we'll be on the ground at the October veto session, giving you the latest of what you need to know here with Illinois in Focus Daily. And you can wake up each morning with the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com, sign up for the newsletter, and get those headlines. It's a free newswire service for you. You can also get the podcast where you get podcasts, but don't forget, too, you can wake up with us here each and every weekday morning with the Center Square on YouTube.